Zeppelin. And like from the beginning, he was married to her before he met Page. In 68, he got married to her. It may have been between meeting Page and the band going on the road, but it was in that area. And they split up in 1982 between his first and second solo albums. Now, there's nothing there I didn't know. But that's other than it was a quickie divorce. It just happened quickly. Oh, that's about all he says on the subject. No kind of where's wife or he hints that a rift developed between Plant and Maureen, his wife, after the death of their son, Carrick. And that happens. That's very, very common. Divorce rate for people who've had a child dies, within 5 years of the child dying is extremely, extremely, extremely high. Something like 80% or so. It's really ludicrously high. So it's not an uncommon thing to have happened, but that's, really? You decided to sit down and write a book, and that's the best you could come up with was that one sentence, half a paragraph on the subject? That's why you write a book. He does it again with the subject of Alana Miles. Alana Miles, a Canadian singer-songwriter who Plant supposedly dated when she was at the peak of her kind of career in the 90s. She had opened some shows for him, and then they became boyfriend-girlfriend. Ozzy says in the subject as well, that's rumored to have happened, but nobody seems to know. Well, you know why we don't know? Because the biographers can't be bothered finding out. Somebody's got to do this. It's supposedly the job you took on. So that's, I guess that's, and I really question his choices, his musical opinion on a lot of this stuff. As I say, he quite likes the last stuff, Band of Joy, but he would place that above, based on my reading of this book, I would say he placed that above Presence, for instance. And I don't know why you'd write a book on Robert Plant if you actually believe that. That Presence isn't a good album, that, there's fundamentally not very good, it's not very deep music on Presence, then, well, you know what, listen to it a second time. Really, honestly, pal. And it goes through like that. There's just too many times when you go, really? 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 And at the end of the day, I don't know how much I learned. I think that's kind of an interesting part, other side of it. I don't know how much I learned. There's nothing, and maybe I'm a bit, I actually seen the guys that Get the Let Out a couple of times in the last week. And I had photography passes to one of their shows. It was a big show at the Oneonta Theater. So head over to my website, rambleonradio.com, and check it out. I got about 20 pictures of them. They're all excellent. And I don't mean to blow my horn, but boy, I had a great night shooting that show. And I saw them again this weekend, and I actually took one of the pictures to have signed. And the guys were blown away by it. Blown away. So anyway, well, I seen them this weekend in Buffalo, and Paul St. Clair was introducing me to Diana, who sings the Battle of Evermore and comes out and does a bit of vocals at the end of Stairway to Heaven, a little harmony bit at the end of Stairway to Heaven. And Paul, he introduced me as one of the foremost experts on Led Zeppelin. I don't know if that's true, but obviously I maybe know more than the average fan. But nonetheless, when I pick up a book like this, I kind of expect to learn something. I expect something new to be there. And there really was very, very little that was new. Really was very little that was, there's nothing stunning. There was nothing, oh, that's what happened. Oh my God, that's none of that. Now, in fairness, he avoids a lot of the stuff I don't like. There's no mention of sharks whatsoever in this book. I looked in the index, mud shark does not appear. And so that kind of salacious stuff he doesn't dig into. Although there's the strong hint that Plant is a womanizer of note, and nothing surprising there. But, I mean, he suggests that he's lost more than one friendship because he has gone off with the girlfriend / wife of the friend. You don't leave your girlfriend alone with Robert Plant at a party. That's he's pretty clear on that point. So, but he treats it as a kind of an interesting quirk, not like a flaw in his personality, not a scummy thing to do. Which, let's face it, it's a scummy thing to do. A lot of hints too about Robert and his wife's sister Shirley from before and after. But again, nothing that was new, nothing that was original, nothing that was definitive. Just those rumors existed. Well, so did it happen or did it not happen? Say so. Take a stand on one side of the issue or another. Did it or did it not happen? Here's one of the things he got wrong. And this is real simple, right? Page played guitar in the Yardbirds after Jeff Beck left. No, he didn't. He played guitar in the Yardbirds with Jeff Beck. And then he talks about he went over to bass. He played bass in the Yardbirds. Then he moved to guitar after Jeff Beck left. And that's inaccurate. He played guitar with Jeff Beck. Then Jeff Beck left. Yes, he started out as a bass player, but he didn't last long. They went to the two guitar. And that's a real fundamental error that shouldn't happen in a book like this. It just shouldn't. He talks a bit, too, about... I guess if you think he gives Robert a break on everything, he talks about the band's penchant to borrow from the old bluesmen quite a bit. And he talks early on... he mentions the old story about Robert Plant stealing the harmonica from, I forget who it was, Blind, one of the big bluesmen anyway, comes to Brighton or wherever, and Plant meets him in the bathroom, kind of tries to talk to him in the bathroom and gets told, fuck off. So Sonny Boy Williamson, right? So Sonny Boy Williamson's quite rude to him. So he goes and he steals his harmonica. And so later on, he mentions that harmonica that he used it on When the Levee Breaks, I think it is, or something. He says he was well practiced at stealing from the old blues masters. That's about the nastiest thing he says in there about Robert Plant. The borrowing of songs seems to bother him no end. So, okay, and then I'm going to get to the final bit here. To talk about the Celebration Day concert and the aftermath. He talks quite a bit about, and again, he's up and down on this. He's weird. Oh, there's one of the other shows. See, I knew I wrote it down. It's on my piece of paper. I wrote it down. He says Pete Townshend appeared at the O2 show. Pete Townshend was scheduled to perform. He never did because the concert was changed. Townshend couldn't attend. So Townshend did not perform. And he specifically says perform, not was scheduled to perform. Performances by the likes of Bill Wyman and Pete Townshend, that sort of thing. And no, Pete Townshend was never there. That's an easy fact check. What are you doing? And here's, by the way, he talks about how much he likes Krause and the band of Joy. But about Celebration Day movie, not so happy. Doesn't like it. Says it's a disappointment being nothing more than a straight document of the concert. Of course, earlier when he's talking about Song Remains the Same, he's slagging it as being a convoluted mess that goes all over the place. And he's right about Song Remains the Same in a way. If it was a straight document of a concert, that would make it a much better concert movie. So I don't know what you're looking for in Celebration Day, but it was a concert, it was a good concert, and they put it out there. But he talks about Plant was never going to do, never going to do any other shows. That was from the get-go. He has an interview with Plant saying that I never intended to do another one. It was when it was over, I knew it was over. Okay? Got that? So it was never going to happen. There was zero chance, right? And then here we go, page 306. Plans had been laid down for a 33-date world tour. Now, how do you plan a 33? And they're talking about plans were put together or were in motion. You got to have Robert Plant's approval when you start making plans, don't you? And I go back to, I really think he was surprised by how well the Krause thing went off, and I think he just decided, no, I'm going this direction, not that direction. I'm going forward, not backwards, which is fine. And there is strong hints that, that's another thing. He kind of tells the story about Page and Plant ending without ever telling why Plant walked away. He just kind of hints that Jimmy's drinking by that time quite heavily, and Plant's just had enough, and he walks away, and without ever getting into the whys and wherefores. And I've always I don't know very well what happened at the end of Page and Plant. I often said before, the 90s are my lost decade of music. And yet, what he put down, I knew. There was nothing new there. So, however, he also says that Plant told Jimmy on the Celebration Day premiere, we should do something together. So Plant's never going to do anything with Led Zeppelin again. Plans have been laid down for a tour, and Plant told Page we should do something. You got all that? Okay. I wonder if an editor would have helped. Anyway, the book is Robert Plant, A Life by Paul Rees. It is a good read. It's a gentle, easy read. It gives you a bit of the measure of the man. It gives you a hint. And one of the things I got out of it, from in the late 60s, he started dating Maureen, and he was hanging out with her family and whatnot. And it was a don't do thing, right? That was, like living in the southern states in the 50s and marrying a black girl. It was not something that was done. And he didn't care. He just went off and did it. And he's, that side of his personality that I'm not going to give in to pressures of everybody else around me has always existed. And that is one kind of consistent through this book. That and the womanizing. That and even in high school, he was chasing girls like crazy. I thought often of the old David Lee Roth line. I'm not like this because I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star because I'm like this. Robert Plant really was a rock star long before he was any kind of rock star. So anyway, I enjoyed it as a read. I just wouldn't say I learnt very much, if anything at all. Maybe solidified some ideas. Maybe, I'll remember some of this stuff a little better next time around because I've read it yet again. But there was nothing really solid there. It'll go on my shelf. Probably won't be used as reference for the show. Let's put it that way. Not very often, I would think. But what the heck? It was $25. It wasn't a bad deal. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on your iPad, and you put it on your Christmas list. Let somebody buy it for you. It was a good book. It was a good read. It just wasn't highly overly informative for us. And if you never read anything about Robert Plant, you probably would have learned a lot. But there was no depth there, I guess, is what I'm saying. Okay, so that's it. Now, Robert's been, while we're on the subject of Robert, see, I thought I'm going to go, how am I going to talk for 20 minutes? I'm at 30 minutes. This is supposed to be shorter. He's been recording. There was an interview a couple of weeks ago, and I was actually going to do this first podcast, and this was what I was going to talk about, was his interview. Everybody got all excited about something he said in that interview. Oh, that they had found a couple of songs with John Paul Jones singing on them. And I actually thought he was taking the piss out of the interview, or actually taking the piss out of